It's been a year since my uncle and the rest of his team vanished. I tried to move on, to forget what happened, but the dreams won't stop. The whispers, the twisted faces, the endless dark. I wake up every night covered in sweat, the same words echoing in my head. Words I shouldn't understand, but somehow I do. They're waiting. I've spent months researching, trying to make sense of it all. I went back to the village, tried to talk to the elders again, but they refused. Even the old man who had told me about the NOK people being taken turned his back on me. They acted like I didn't exist, like they knew something and I wasn't supposed to be a part of it. That didn't stop me. I had to find answers. I started digging deeper into the history of the NOK people, the ones they don't teach in school. Stories passed down in whispers, never written. Dark things. Things that made my skin crawl just reading about them. There's an old legend that says the NOK didn't disappear, they crossed over. Not into death, but into something else, some sort of other side. A place that isn't meant for us. They made a deal with something ancient, something powerful, and they paid the price. The terracotta statues. They weren't just art, they were warnings. Warnings we ignored. A week ago, I found something. In one of my uncle's old journals, tucked away in the back of his study, there was a map. A hand-drawn sketch of the dig site, but it showed something more. A hidden chamber, deeper underground. He never mentioned it to me or anyone else on the team, but I knew what I had to do. I packed a bag, grabbed a flashlight, and went back, alone. The site was overgrown, abandoned, but I found the entrance. It was still there, buried under layers of dirt and rock. I followed the map, down into the same chamber where everything started. The stone slab was still there, the twisted figure carved into it, watching me with those wide, unnatural eyes. But this time I didn't stop, I kept going. Behind the slab, hidden in the shadows, there was a small passageway just big enough for a person to crawl through. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to leave this place and never return, but I couldn't. I needed answers. The passage was narrow, claustrophobic. The air was thick, and the whispers started again. Faint, but there, growing louder with every step I took. I kept crawling, the walls of the tunnel pressing in on me, until I reached the other side. I found myself in a massive underground cavern. It was dark, but I could just make out the shapes of more statues, dozens of them, hundreds, lining the walls, standing in rows, their faces twisted in terror. They were all staring at one spot, a large altar in the center of the room. And there, lying on the altar, was my uncle. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his eyes were open, staring blankly at the ceiling. But he was breathing. Shallow, barely there, but breathing. I rushed to his side, shaking him, calling his name. He didn't respond. It was like he was trapped in some kind of nightmare, unable to wake up. That's when I saw it. Above the altar, hanging in the air, was a shadow. Not like anything I've ever seen. It wasn't a person or even a creature. It was just darkness. Shifting, pulsing, like it was alive, and it was watching me. The whispers grew louder, filling the cavern, filling my head. They weren't just words anymore, they were commands. They wanted me to leave my uncle, to walk away, to never look back. But I couldn't. I grabbed him, tried to pull him off the altar, but he was too heavy. It was like he was anchored to the stone. And then the shadow moved. It slithered down from the ceiling, creeping toward us, its shape growing, shifting, stretching out like long fingers. I felt something cold touch my skin, and for a moment, everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was outside, lying in the dirt near the dig site. uncle was gone, the cavern was gone. It was like it had never existed. But I knew what I had seen. I knew what had happened. They had taken him. Now every night, the dreams are worse. I see the shadow, the twisted faces, the altar, and I hear the whispers, clearer than ever before. They're not just in my head anymore, they're calling me back. And I'm afraid this time I won't be able to resist.